Welcome to Above the Garage.
Hi, friends. Welcome to our discussion of episode 4 of The Veil. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Julia.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
Hi, I'm Megan.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Kate. So this episode, before we get into it, we have a new director and a new cinematographer. And the cinematographer, Stuart Biddlecombe, is also a cinematographer on Handmaids. So we knew it was going to be lit especially well, and it did not disappoint. The director for this episode is Damon Thomas.
Damon worked on Killing Eve, so he probably, you reckon he
Oh.
got recruited for this because of the woman aspect.
Yeah, that's a popular one. This episode opens up back in the cemetery of the last episode, which makes me happy because I love old cemeteries. We've got our Bulgarian naval officer, Emir, dressing down as a civilian again and approaching a hippie-looking chick around Jim Morrison's grave. She starts up a conversation. The inscription on Jim's grave apparently says he was true to his own demon. And that is something that Emir can relate to. He too is true to his demons. And it turns out, not shockingly, the hippie chick is in fact an American operative. A fairly terrible American operative.
Oh, so bad.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
yeah.
The whole mission was bad, though.
I put amateur hour. Like, that's what I have in my
Like the
notes.
Yeah.
second he turns around, she starts
She's like
calling
screaming, like,
Max.
Yeah.
hey, I'm on the phone. It's so loud. I'm
I
like,
know.
shut
And she's
up.
looking around the cemetery all like
Panicked and
suspiciously.
frenzied.
She seemed really inexperienced, but that whole mission didn't seem very well executed. Like her backup was way out in his
No.
car somewhere. I mean, couldn't they have had more people planted around a little bit closer? And
Yeah.
then Max is on the phone in his hotel room, safe out of,
Yeah.
he's nowhere around, and he's just, I don't know. I was like, I thought they were supposed to be good at this. He keeps boasting about how the CIA is
So
like 12
bad.
steps ahead of the French, and it just seemed like really badly executed, I thought.
Oh,
I'm
so
beginning to
bad.
think that the American intel community needs me as a spy. If
I
this
do
is the
too.
kind
Me
of people they're
too.
working
I will
with,
volunteer my services. I will.
I can do better than that.
There's only one entrance to that particular cemetery, though. So it made sense that he was waiting outside of the gate.
But they could have had other people like in the
Inside,
cemetery.
I mean, inside, like in the
you know,
angles of
closer
the-
by. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like huge. I've been there. Actually, it was quite funny when I was watching episode 3, and they were meeting at the cemetery, and I was like, oh my god, I'm betting my life on that it will be Jim Morrison's grave, and it was.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
Mhm.
of course,
Claim to fame.
because he lived there.
Yeah, so she immediately drops her cover, calls Max while looking around suspiciously throughout the cemetery. Emir's, of course, still lurking nearby, watching her as she doubles back to the grave to pick up the flowers in the hopes of getting some DNA off of it. Emir had also picked up a card from the offering, so this was confirmed as a drop spot that they had suspected. The female operative caught sight of him again and is trying to follow him through the cemetery while Max sends in another operative after her, but it's not enough to save her rookie ass. The Bulgarian walks up and shoots her point blank, her death confirmed by the second American agent after he watches the murderer escape over a nearby bridge. Bad day for Max and the Americans. But, hopefully she was actually a Jim Morrison fan. At least maybe she'd think it
Yeah.
was cool to die near him.
I can't believe though Max was just like, okay, you go in, and I'm like, the other one's just been shot. Like, do you want another one to die, or like seriously?
I don't think
Like
she wasn't shot yet when he sent him in, right?
No, he. I feel like he was on the phone and he was like, okay, go find him.
Yeah, he was still encouraging him to continue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I question everybody's expertise in spying in this matter. In this scene. Imogen's back in the apartment she's staying at with Adilah, just waking up from a dream of a little girl laughing and a memory of her previously laying on the bed with children's clothes again, crying. She wakes up to the sound of another little girl and her mom. Yasmina is in the apartment, threatening to tickle Adilah to wake her up. Imogen does a little spying on the two of them in bed, cuddling adorably. Apparently today's the day Yasmina moves back in with her auntie. Adilah explains it to her as she'll be taking care of things so they can be together again and have a new home. And then everyone's looking out of their respective homes over the city of Paris, mentally preparing for another day of thrilling spy work.
I really like the cinematography shot of Adela and her kid through the door as Imogen was spying on them, and also even just the shot of the boys out of their respective windows with the landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Window.
cityscape. It was really cool. I love that. Adilah's aunt turns serious talking to Adilah, telling her she loves her like a daughter and acknowledging whatever she knows about Adilah's secret life, praying that God will forgive her. Also reminding her that they've been taught to live in peace, a pretty clear message to not do whatever she's about to do, while her daughter and Imogen look on.
Going back to just how it opened with Imogen and her dream, I guess, about apparently losing a child and how devastated those feelings must be to be reliving. And then probably being in that apartment, like we learn later, it's Michael's apartment. And I have a lot of questions about that, but I don't know. Did you guys get the sense that her dream and her memory about when she's lying on the bed and the cradle's behind her, was that in the same apartment? Is that why it's triggering these memories?
I think so, but they don't show you like to prove it either. Because I rewound to see if they were like the same windows, but they don't show you. They don't zoom out in her current time.
But it gave me the vibe that it was the same apartment.
And then to top, like immediately following waking up with those memories and those feelings, hearing Adilah with her own daughter, and then going and watching them, I just felt like that must have been even more gutting. And it reminded me of her question in the second episode, I think, when she said, how can a mother leave her child behind?
Right.
I think there's a part of her that resents Adilah. I mean, obviously, I think that's a question you would probably have that regardless of your own circumstances. But the fact that she lost a child, just not even being to comprehend how you could have a daughter and deliberately leave. And we don't know Adilah's whole story yet, but it's like I can just see that feeding on those feelings.
Yeah, it was episode 1, by the way.
Oh, it was 1? Okay.
As Adilah walks her aunt out, Imogen visits the stuffy study, taking it all in like it's something to her. And then she sees a picture of her and a man. She feels around the books for a key, and she's quite happy when she finds it. It unlocks a box of memories, letters, a postcard. She picks a certain letter with absolutely gorgeous handwriting, though it could feel a bit young, colored by information we learn later in the episode. I was just looking at her handwriting. And you hear her read a short selection, a quote from who else but William Shakespeare, this one from Much Ado About Nothing.
It says, when you depart from me, sorrow abides and happiness takes his leave.
It's obviously a love letter to a man named Michael, who we've learned is played by James Purefoy, and we've seen pop up in these flashbacks. How did you guys interpret her reaction to reading the letter, like her facial expression?
I watched that a few times, and then I tried pausing it to read what was in the letter. First of all, I also tried to pause and see what was on the envelope when she's seeing like the return address, and all I could make out was Lord and Lady something, which was strange. And then it does start where it sounds like a love letter. That was the same impression I had at first. But when I was reading the body of the letter, it sounds more like a couple that's on vacation and they're writing him a letter telling them everything that they've been doing. So I'm not sure if it was a love letter.
Or even a kid writing like a parent what they're doing on this vacation. I read it too. It's just literally outlining what she's doing in India with her friends, you know?
It was probably written after her father had died when she was 6.
Yeah.
So you're thinking Imogen wrote this letter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're in Michael's apartment. So this is all things that
but
Michael
it didn't look like it was from her on the envelope.
Yeah. I think that she wrote it.
Oh, I thought like this was the sender, you know, because she turned it around.
Yeah.
Like she got the envelope, and then there was a name under it, and then she turned it around, and then there was Lord and Lady somewhat written.
Yeah, so on the envelope, on one side it was Michael's information to send, and on the other side was the return address, and it said Lord and Lady something.
It's who she's staying with in India or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I think he's guardian at this point, and it's just who she's staying on vacation. That was my impression.
Sorry, what did I miss? Where's the detail of her staying in India with someone?
It's in the letter she's reading.
Okay.
So we assume that the letter she is reading with the Shakespeare quote is a letter Imogen wrote to Michael at some point in the past.
Yeah.
And then if you read this particular letter, then it starts with the quote, and then it ventures into I'm visiting India, I'm at Bombay, it's marvelous, blah, blah, blah.
Right, yeah. So I think he was her guardian. That's my impression. Anyway, when the facial expression, I thought she might have been a little embarrassed reading the letter. I don't know. Thinking of her younger self.
Yeah. That's what I got.
Crushing on this guy that she knows now is just taking advantage of her. After the letter, she flips through pictures to a baby, but there's no corresponding smile on her face, as there may be looking at a baby's picture usually. And then a picture of two men. Again, judging from what we learn later in the episode, I'm assuming this is her father and Michael.
Yeah.
And then she looks almost disgusted to me for like a second. Then she turns over a silver cigarette case and sees the engraving. To my comrade Michael, always Marcus.
Yeah, that's what gets her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Comrade. She's like, what the hell?
Yeah, a Russian word.
I think as soon as she saw comrade, the wheels started turning in her head. And she's like, that's why she wants to know so much about her dad. Like, I think she has an inkling.
It's related to him too, yeah. I'd also just like to interject that this is another bout of bad spying. If they're double agents for Russia, they should not be giving cigarette cases to say comrade.
Yeah, with their actual names, or maybe that's not their
actual names. Anyway.
So I think she always suspected there was more to what happened to her dad than what she'd been told and what seemed on the surface. And this is like adding that layer, like, oh.
So on top of all of the like dispropriety involved in her guardian then becoming her lover, I think that he also may have killed her father, been involved at the very least. So it's all fairly upsetting in theory. We don't know yet. Maybe he wasn't involved, but if he was, that's pretty awful.
Yeah.
Maybe he was a triple agent. Michael was a triple agent.
Well, yeah. And I'm sure that's what she's hoping for in her head and still hanging on to, at least for Marcus. I don't know.
No, I think like maybe Michael was a triple agent. Like he's been working for the Brits because she says that Michael taught her everything she knows. And then he's been a double agent for the Russians, so he became the comrade of Marcus, but in the end betrayed him because he was secretly still working for the Brits.
Which at least leaves her one patriot, one British oil. Either way, it's a totally fucked situation. All right, back in the living room, she's clearly still shaken, but so is Adilah. She had a sleepless night knowing what was coming today, that her daughter was leaving, and who knows what else she has weighing on her brain. Adilah does a little digging about the man who owns this apartment. Imogen is wearing her emotions on her sleeve, clearly disturbed by Michael and whatever she's just found. Adilah calls her on it, and Imogen tells her something awful that feels like the actual truth for once. That after her father died when she was 16, his best friend became her guardian, and then her mentor, and then took advantage of that honor by pursuing a sexual relationship with her. Ugh.
How much older is he supposed to be? We obviously don't know, but I feel like he's not that much.
I don't know.
Like 30 years, probably, in my head.
30 years older.
I assumed he was her father's age, but I couldn't tell, like that picture in his study that seemed to be of Imogen and I guess we're only guessing that the man in that picture
that did
is
look
him.
younger.
Yeah.
Like a younger version of them. He did look younger than the flashback we saw where he had a beard and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, the beard ages him.
I don't think he's 30. I don't think he's
in
30
reality,
years
he's 20 years older than Lizzie, it looks like. I just Googled it.
20 years?
Yeah, I actually think it's about 20 years.
Yeah, I also thought that, like, Imogen, like 16, and he was, like, maybe mid-30s or something.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, that makes more sense than 30, because I was like, whoa.
Yeah, sorry, James. Apologies.
Probably like 10 years younger than her father, but 20 years
But just
old.
the fact that it's a transition from her guardian to mentor to lover, it's like, she was, 16 when her father died?
Now, are we thinking Michael is baby's daddy, like the baby daddy?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Isn't there a memory where he's asking her
something about seeing her face?
You remember her face or something?
Yeah.
It probably is.
Yeah. So Imogen very resentfully tells Adilah he's responsible for making her who she is today. You can see her flinching as she remembers that memory of him with a red dress. And he's the one that calls her silly girl, which I think she remembered at the end of the first episode. Adilah wonders if they see each other, and she says no at first, but then she adds not really. So I guess he's not dead. Didn't sound like a definitive no.
Wasn't definitive.
That's enough of a stroll down memory lane for her. Fuck the past, she says, and heads off to find a martini.
So do we know why she's able to just stay at Michael's, and if he's still alive, he doesn't seem to be living there, and is this just something she has carte blanche and she has access to? I don't know. I've wondered about all that.
Yeah, it seems like it was their home together.
Yeah, in my head they were together with the baby died, he left it to her and went somewhere else when they broke up. Okay. Back at the DGSE, they're bringing in an exceptionally unpleasant smelling man. So obviously whatever he has to offer must be quite impressive to overlook the rest of the package. His name is Cesar, not unlike the 12th Night character, but I don't think that's intentional. This guy has just invented a gadget to help the French figure out what the Americans are doing behind their backs. So this gadget can pick up and record anything spoken or texted, I think, by phones within 3 meters, and will override all American security, at least until Wallace figures out what they're doing. And they tested it out on the most American of all America, so they know it works. But more urgent than any of this intel is Caesar's toe situation. So he takes his leave, but not before dropping a little bomb on Malik's professional and personal life. Imogen is working for the Americans, not the French. Or as his boss so eloquently puts it, Imogen is fucking you, but not in the way you want. Malik is incensed, but still doesn't believe things are as they seem. He seems to have like ultimate trust in her, and also storms out past the latest Louvre painting.
It's Two Venetian Women by Eugene de Blas. And I don't know, I couldn't find anything on the meaning or origins of this painting.
But it's kind of like Imogen and Adilah.
Yeah. One was blonde, one was dark haired.
Yeah, it's definitely what it made me think of. The brunette, the way the brunette is looking at the girl, her hair is kind of auburn color, I guess. And then the auburn hair girl is looking off into the distance. It made me think, and I don't know if this is an exact read on the dynamic between these two women, but the dark haired woman seems a little bit more fond of the auburn haired girl, and the auburn haired girl is looking off like she has an interest somewhere else. Anyway, I definitely parallel to Imogen and Adilah.
Yeah.
This was a funny sequence too, with this interesting
Thank you, man.
Caesar
Yeah.
genius guy.
I'm like, what funk does he have? Like a toe fungus or like
Seemed
something with
horrible.
his feet, man?
Like he doesn't
Do they
bathe
read that
and-
much?
Yeah, like seriously, who's that
everybody-
offensive?
He must be really good at what he does to put up with. all
Yeah,
that.
but it's like I felt like it was a real like cliche thing again. Like, of course, the genius IT guy is like unkept. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. They do lean into stereotypes. here.
Yeah, very heavily. What's his name? The head of the DGSE? Like
I don't think I've caught his name. I'm not saying they haven't said it. I keep calling him the boss guy.
I just say I'm Malik's boss. I don't know his name.
Yeah.
Maybe it's on IMDb.
something with M, I think.
His name is Magritte Levasseur.
I did see Magritte at
okay.
one point.
Okay.
Yeah.
The actor's name is Thibault D. Montelember. Montelember?
Good try.
I reckon it was fucking great.
I think so too.
I think he's one of the better characters on the show, actually.
Yeah.
We haven't actually talked about him, but he seems like a really good actor. I'm not sure if I've ever seen him before, but I am enjoying him.
I like him too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now for Imogen's much needed martini. She walks right by Max, sipping his own martini, and takes up a seat at the bar with Adilah, who hates these types of Western hotels full of rich Americans. Makes her sick. That sounds a bit like ISIS. But I also understand that feeling. Anyway, Imogen explains her comfort here is quite literally her job, and then drops a statement that would resonate with both Adilah and Imogen, and perhaps even the actresses that play them. I've played so many people in my life, I don't know where I belong anymore. Imogen takes a swig of her drink after that, and then looks around, really trying to take the place in and decipher why Adilah hates it so much. She guesses maybe it reminds her of her modeling days in Paris, but Adilah tells a very different, much more shocking tale instead. She admits to being a suicide bomber earlier in her life in a hotel just like this. She was strapped with explosives underneath her pretty clothes, and a face nobody would suspect, walking into a lobby full of people, families and children even, who we can see in her memory. And the only thing that saved any of them was a faulty wire. Not that she didn't push the button, just that it didn't go off when she did. Or that, like, this part was confusing to me because, like, or that she felt a wire out of place.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense she would have not
I
gone
think that
through
was
with it
a
because
lie.
she felt a wire out of place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too.
And the people
Yeah, I
that sent
think
her
that's
there
what
wouldn't
she-
accept that
Mhm.
excuse. So she had to have tried to detonate it.
It looked to
And it
me like
didn't
she
go
tried
off.
to push it down and it wouldn't go. And she even looked to me like she was upset that it didn't work.
Right.
It looked to me like the switch was stuck.
Yeah. And so it was weird then when Imogen said, I don't think that you
Mhm.
would have pulled the trigger, or
Yeah.
I don't think that you would have detonated it anyway, because that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she basically said she did pull the trigger and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
Is it showing Imogen just becoming too close to her and she doesn't want to believe that she's really capable of the monstrous acts she's done or has tried to do?
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like they want us to believe that, and it doesn't make sense with this story.
Mm,
She had to have tried to detonate it to know that it wasn't going to work.
right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. The part that stuck out to me as well was when she was describing, they dressed me in beautiful clothes, talked about heaven. It reminded me of the scene from the last episode when
Yeah.
the suicide
No.
terrorists were being told what was going to happen to them and they were dressing in the
Right.
white, the all white. so they'd be prepared when they entered heaven.
Mm.
And then she's dressed in all
Yeah.
white going into the restaurant. Mhm.
I will say I enjoyed the beautiful outfit that Adilah was wearing. Shout out to Anthony Unwin on the costume design.
I love Imogen's club outfit and beating the shit out of people outfit in this episode.
The boots.
I don't think anything can beat the last episode 3 where she was wearing that brown coat for me.
Yeah,
I think it was the makeup as well.
Yeah. The makeup is so good.
it is so good. Imogen asks Adilah if Yasmina was born yet during her suicide bombing mission. And Adilah's response was very much like, of course not, you idiot. Like the way that she answered and the way she looked. And then she says, there is not greater suffering for a parent than when your child is suffering. A mother's child is her child's blood. Imogen agrees with that, at least. And on her way out, she tells Adilah that she doesn't think she ever would have flicked switch, which we've already discussed. Imogen meets Max in the lobby. Again, these spies are not impressing me with their secret meetups. Imogen wants more time. She's hoping that the confession of Adilah's will buy her that, and it seems to have. Max gives her 24 hours and a gun because of the recently deceased operative. Does MI6 not carry guns? I would just assume everyone's carrying guns. Imogen still doesn't think ISIS operates in the manner as the 3 murders that we've seen recently. The last one she told him had looked like the Russians. She thinks it may be ISIS, but trained by another entity. A collab. Before parting, Imogen assures him that torture will not get what he wants with Adilah if he tries it. Adilah is convinced that her daughter will die if she squeals, so she never will. But Imogen is convinced she can get her to turn, and only Imogen. She is sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but she is his only hope. Then she asks for her daddy's file. Max hands her a thumb drive with the requested information and a little teaser. It's not easy to be so bad they want to kill you. And whatever she blackmailed him with from Morocco, it isn't what it seems. Never is, she replies.
So I'm confused because they keep saying, that this isn't how ISIS operates, etc., etc. So are ISIS working with the
It seems they're working with the
Russian?
Russians. There's some Russian component going on here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ties.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the show very long, but the guy who found the map and the guy who went to get Adilah's phone and then executed the NGO guys, I guess we don't really know his affiliation either, right? Like he was on so shortly and then he was executed himself.
Yeah. They said that he was a low ISIS member.
Okay, so that's interesting because, first of all, because that would sort of indicate, because I was wondering, like, why would somebody who seems to be working with him execute him like that to take over? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's what Imogen is saying is that there's somebody else involved or they're trained by proxy operation, which is what Max says. But except for the fact that the guy who gets the phone at the camp, at the refugee camp, also executes those 2 men point blank in the same way that Imogen says ISIS doesn't usually operate.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I was asking the same question ever since he got shot. Like, wait, why would a member of the same shoot them? Like I don't know.
It would make sense to me if she's pointing out ISIS doesn't operate that way. They don't go in for clean assassinations like that. I'm like, okay, but if the original guy who got the phone was actually ISIS, and then he was taken out by the Bulgarian guy because someone else is involved, but he also did clean assassinations at the NGO camp and just took off. So I'm like, I don't know. Do they or don't they do that?
Don't forget the Scottish man as well. We also have the Scottish man.
What's he doing there?
Which one was the Scottish man?
The one who's like kind of organized, like always
Istanbul.
Around.
Yeah.
Don.
I think his name is Dan or something. Dan.
2 more episodes to make it all make sense.
Malik calls Imogen and he's not thrilled, demands she meets him on their bench. And he tells her they know everything despite her best efforts at keeping it from him. Pretty shot of the Eiffel Tower on Malik's side of the call.
Yeah, that was a nice shot.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I also like their bench later in the episode. It's very pretty.
I can definitely tell in this episode there's a few more Handmaid-esque shots that I noticed.
Well, the last shot of the episode.
That was big time.
Yeah.
June
I literally said out loud, I was like, oh, hey, June.
Yeah.
I was like, it's June.
Look directly into the camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. When Imogen returns from this extended and efficient trip to the bathroom, Adilah tells her she's taking her to the real Paris. And you remember she had that note yesterday that said to bring her to Laverick at 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, Amir pulls an actual good spy move by lighting some rando cigarette and receiving something attack-related in return from him. Unless it was a SIM card. What did you guys think that he got from the...
I had the same question
I
because
thought it was a SIM card.
at first, well, it could have been a chip because it didn't look like it didn't look like a SIM card. It looked like
I
maybe
thought there was a wire on
component,
it.
or maybe there
Yeah.
was a wire, and there was something else that could have been maybe a small motherboard or like a chip or
Mhm.
something, but it wasn't the
Yeah.
actual SIM card. The SIM card he got from the card later on,
Yeah.
which we're coming to. So I don't know what that actual doohickey was, if it goes into because we don't see
It
him
must
use
just
it.
be a component for the ultimate plan. You
yeah.
know, it's just
Yeah.
one of the puzzle pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a cool shot of the Galata Bridge. I like how they have all those shops underneath it while Amir is talking to the Scottish man, Don, that was running the radiation mission. The ship is en route to meet Amir in Marseille and then head to the U.S. harbor, and the Jinn is still with the British operative. Amir says he'll be joining the ship to head to America. There's a shot of the ship and then what is presumably the bomb. I thought Amir was on the ship this whole time. He must have exited
I
the
was
ship.
like, how did you get off this
Yeah.
though?
Well, so I assumed it had like
And then I
docked
was like-
here or something.
I
don't
was
know.
confused with what
Yeah.
the Scottish guy said when he was like, the Jinn Al Raqqa confirms she's still in Paris with the British woman. Now, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
is that Abdillah confirming it? Or
Has
is
to be,
the real
right?
Jinn
Yeah.
Al Raqqa like maybe Amir? I don't know. Like somebody is confirming that she.
I think she's the Jinn myself.
I
But
know.
yes,
Yeah.
there's still
But
Yeah.
the
could be
play
a
there was,
twist.
I was like, ooh, there could be a twist
Yeah.
because it's like
the
the
way it
Jinn
was
Al
phrased,
Raqqa
right?
confirms she's
She,
like,
yeah.
she
Could be a
Abdillah.
third party
Yeah.
she.
Yeah, she could be another Jinn, right? There's 7 Jinns.
Right.
Well, assuming
Maybe.
that
Yeah.
he's talking about, that's a good point. Assuming he is talking about Adilah and Imogen, I thought it
Right.
was interesting that they referred to her as the British woman, because I
Yeah.
would think at that point, Adilah would have had an opportunity to communicate to them that she's really a British spy or she's a
Yeah.
British agent, but they didn't refer to her that way. They just said the
Right.
British woman, like generic.
Yeah.
Like she's just hanging out with this
Mhm.
British woman and she won't leave her alone. Like she won't leave her out of her sight. And
Yeah.
so I thought that was interesting. And the other thing that's interesting to me about all of these terrorist scenes is that they're always communicating in English. Like what the heck? Like
Yeah.
all the French scenes,
Yeah.
like all of the
It's funny.
they're all in French, completely in French. And then in the terrorist scenes, when it's just them talking to each other and they're on phones and they're leaving notes, it's all in English, plain English,
Yep.
not coded. They're saying their whole plan.
But maybe Amir is, if he's Bulgarian, I don't know, he cannot really speak Arabic, maybe, even though he's
Yeah,
in ISIS. We
possibly,
see Dan
yeah.
speaking Arabic in this episode because he's
Right.
saying a farewell in
Like
Arabic
maybe English.
to the other guy. So we don't really know how well they're
But even
Right.
if they are
foreign
doing that,
language,
like using a common language between all of them, couldn't they be talking in code or less plain speak? Because they're just spelling out their entire plan. And
Yeah.
their phone was intercepted. Their call was intercepted. So it's like, I don't know.
I also would like to talk about how that call was intercepted because he said that Caesar put
Conveniently.
that.
Oh my God.
He said Caesar put that bug there a year ago
A
because
year
it's
ago.
like a public place people can meet. So like whose job is it to listen to all these stupid people 24 hours a day talking by this trash can? And
Right.
finally it pays off a year later.
I was like, this is crazy convenient. So I was like, a good thing bad guys are so predictable and they all just sit in this spot and drink
This
tea.
is their
I was like,
location to talk. Spy talk.
yeah, that part got
Yeah.
me. I was like, what?
I wish he'd said like a month ago or
Yeah.
something too. Like a year ago, someone's listening to this for a year. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Anyway, well, that
Maybe it's AI.
Yeah, it could be.
We don't know that.
Pick up code words, certain. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Before we move on to beyond the gin card, because I looked
Yes.
up this gin, and so the last one they had focused on was the Red King of Tuesday. So this card is the Blue King of Wednesday. It designates Mercury, the King of Mercury, and what else did I find? The color blue, the metal brass. And I thought this was interesting. He's monitored, all of these gins are monitored by an angel. This one is monitored by the angel Michael. And he's also known as the Black King. And in parentheses, it said Al-Malik Al-Aswad. And I just thought it was interesting, these words or these names that were running parallel in the show. I mean, Michael is a very common name. I don't think that indicates anything, just that maybe they were pulling words or names and for some of the characters. Let's see. Oh, his talisman is elaborate, and also his helpers are quite extraordinary. He teaches the evil jinn about all about magic and to harm humans with it, which seems to fit for this particular guy. So
the first three kings now,
Monday.
right? Like the king of Monday, like White King is the Scottish guy, like
The phone.
they call the Monday number. And then Tuesday is Jin Araka, so Adilah, and Wednesday is Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this guy, like who picked up the phone, was 1-2.
Isn't like Michael the archangel who vanquishes Satan into hell?
Yes, something very important. Very important.
Right,
archangel.
very important. But
Yeah.
a warrior.
Yeah, interesting.
Is that Adilah?
I feel like Michael himself is going to make an appearance if she
Yeah.
said we don't really see each other very often. So he's not dead, I mean.
Mhm.
All right. Back at the DJSC, they finally have some good intel because they heard this conversation about the bomb between the two men in that last scene. Talked about how they got that. Good job, Caesar. Good guess. And the French think the Americans don't know this, which Boss wants to tell the Americans. Malik is very much against that because he thinks Imogen is like better than all the Americans combined. And he gives him tonight. He said, you have tonight. And they do talk about the Jinn here too as well. There's one for each day of the week and for each day a color and an angel, which we just discussed. They think they're using them as code names. Fair guess. Caesar also found out that an agent died today, but they don't know who or where the body is. Malik points out they have no control of their own city. His faith in Imogen being like nearly godlike is a bit crazy, in my opinion, but
Yeah, I struggled with this part because I was like, on one hand, I understand he's not wrong about the Americans, about them coming in guns blazing, or like they'll
Right.
show up with trumpets and a marching band. Sorry. I'm like, yeah, probably they're Americans are loud and lack subtlety according to this show anyway. But at the same time, the attack is going to be on their soil. Like they need to know this intel. It's very
yeah,
important.
exactly.
They need to start
No.
because the only thing we don't know based on that phone call is where on the
Right.
East Coast they're
Could
going to
be
dock and
Boston,
where
could
it's-
be New York, could be DC.
Yeah, it's
right.
one of the ports, one of the big ports.
But
Yeah.
the America could start putting up enforcements in every defense and all their ports,
Right.
and they need to
Right.
know that ahead of time. So
Also, they do know that boat is going
Mhm.
to go to
right.
Marseille first.
That's pretty
right?
we know a
specific.
lot.
So how many ships come from Sofia, go
Yeah.
to Marseille, and then go to America? I think it would be pretty easy to figure out.
This operation, obviously, let's be real, it's going to be stopped, right? That's the show, probably. It's going to be stopped, and this guy said it's going to take, 7 days or 10 days to get to America on the boat? Like, he's not hurrying. Like, he's not even steering the ship right now.
Now, just knowing where the show is filmed, it's possible all of this was a misdirect, and they've always been planning London. You know?
Oh, could be. Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, yeah, they're not filming in America.
Right.
It goes straight to London.
Right.
So I think maybe it might get intercepted, like in the middle of the ocean or something.
Yeah, could be that. Adilah's idea of the real Paris is another fine dancing establishment. Perhaps not what you'd picture for an ISIS commander, though. Imogen is equally suspicious, assumes she's planning to meet up with someone. Correctly. But first they dance. Not for long, though, before Adilah spots Amir. She looks a bit surprised and not entirely happy, though, in my opinion, in my reading, which is odd since he ordered her to bring Imogen here. I guess we're meant to think Adilah's nervous about her new friend Imogen getting killed by her old friend Amir, perhaps. After getting a drink at the bar, Imogen finds Adilah missing from the dance floor and starts off in search of her. Meanwhile, Adilah has gone outside and immediately found Amir in an alleyway outside of the club. They both seem quite affected to see each other. He
Mhm.
reaches out for her hair and accuses her of dressing like her. Commands this insanity has to stop. Adilah tells him to trust her right before Imogen shows up and starts following him on foot just after. But first, Imogen emphatically tells Adilah, fuck you.
Mhm.
And then there are gunshots and they hop in a taxi.
So we're supposed to believe Imogen is an amazing, amazing spy, right?
Uh-huh.
But she's
The
obviously
best
got.
ever.
She needs to go to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, why do they drink so much?
She spies Adilah looking over weirdly at the crowd, whatever. So it's obvious that she spotted someone, right?
Mhm.
So she says, "I'm going for a drink." What?
So the first I
What?
had a thought and then it was immediately dismissed. So my first thought was maybe she's going to the bar to give her an opportunity to get away so that she can
Yeah.
follow her. But the thing
that I
is that
accept.
sure, but she goes to the bar, she gets like 2 drinks, and then
Yeah.
she loses her, sort of. Like she comes back and she's
Right.
wandering around
She
and
doesn't keep an eye on her.
like she didn't keep an eye on her to be
Yeah.
like, okay, she's going that way. I'm going to see where she's. So yeah, I've at first I thought there could be a reason why she's going. It could be a tactic, but then it didn't seem like a tactic after that.
Well, no, getting drunk is never a good tactic. It's not good.
Like,
it doesn't
I'm not
do good things to
anti-drinking
your
by
mind.
any means, but spies should not be, like later that night, she drinks like 5,000 glasses of whiskey or whatever. It's crazy because what if the attack is like, you have to be.
And her operative is, or whoever her target is in her home.
Yeah.
Like anything could happen.
Yes.
Definitely dulls your wits when you're drinking.
Mm-hmm. I could only understand the drinking if they're trying to fit in or they're trying to blend in to what other people are doing, but she's recrecreationally drinking.
Yeah, and you're careful about it and you sip it and you get rid of it if you need to. I don't know. I just not, and I'm not by any means a teetotaler at all. But in the spy business, it does not seem to jive. It does not seem to mesh with the best spy in the world.
Also, what do you guys think about? I find it amusing that the two of the Imogen and Adilah both do this, where they have the two faces that they use. Like when they're looking at each other, there's the smiles, and then as soon as they turn their back, their mask falls. And especially Imogen does that every single time she turns her back on someone, is her mask falls, and it's so obvious that like she has to assume if she's doing that there's nobody else around that could be seeing both sides of her face.
Imogen says she knows Amir. I know him, right?
Yeah, I had to go back and see who said it, but it was her.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Max gave her a description, so I think
I know, but it seems like she's like, I know him. Like
I think she knows him.
I know him
from some previous interaction.
I felt like,
that's what I gathered as well. Yeah, like maybe she'd met him or something.
Yeah, I don't think it was just from the description, or she would have said something different. I know who he is, or even, but like she knows
I know
him.
about him, or I know of him. I've been told about him. Whatever.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Guess we'll find out more. Yeah, so in the taxi, Imogen, screaming at Adilah, demands to know if she knew about this, as their taxi is abruptly halted by two cars surrounding it. Taxi driver is dispatched pretty quickly. Imogen's using her newly acquired gun from under the car, but she does not have any reloading ammunition, it seems. While Adilah lays low in the back of the taxi, but she comes in handy when she kicks the door into the remaining assailant, allowing Imogen to finish him off. Then they get accosted by two more assailants, these guys on a motorcycle. But luckily, Imogen straight up pulls a pole out of the ground, knocks them off their bike, and beats the shit out of them. Can you pull posts out of sidewalks normally? It seems dangerous to have all those weapons laying around. In Paris. I wish I was going now. I want to try.
It must be heavy too. I mean, it's solid, like it's metal, right?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I didn't know that about sidewalks in Paris. Adilah swears she didn't know what was going to happen, and Imogen pretends to buy it. After very little resistance, lets her come with her away from the scene as the police approach.
Well, do we think Amir and Imogen are lovers?
You mean Adilah?
Adilah, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like it to me. He looked like he really cared about her and would like her to not be unsafe.
Is he the one bad man?
I think he could be.
Oh, could be, yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
I just have praise for the actress playing Adilah. I forget her name. What's her name?
Me too. Yumna Marwan.
Yes,
she's awesome.
Amazing, because where I feel like Imogen lacks occasionally in her consistency and in the persona she puts on, we've seen the cause and effect of Adilah with, what happened when she wrapped her phone and the operative who found her phone. So I'm like, okay, there's the connection. So we know she is who they think she is. And we've seen that start the process of the terrorist attack. So there doesn't seem to be a question that she is this ISIS commander that they've been looking for. At the same time, every time that she tells Imogen, like, it's not what you think, or
right,
I want to believe her.
Yeah,
like
I know.
She's more believable to me.
Mm-hmm. She makes Imogen she makes you feel like she was forced into it. Like she's not basically there's a gun held to her daughter's head, and so she has to do what they say.
And yet she left the map for the guy to find the phone. So it's like she is playing an active role in this.
She is, because she was ISIS before her daughter was even born. So it's not like
it could all be about her daughter, that if she does not do these things, then they will target her daughter and force her hand
She was doing them before her daughter was born, though, too. So she was there before.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I mean, now maybe they use that as her Achilles to make her bend more.
To follow through. Like maybe she had a change of heart at some point and they're like, I don't know. There could be more to her story than meets the eye, because I find her a lot more believable. And I want Like, I keep wanting to believe there's more going on than she's just evil.
Yeah.
I go back and
she's
forth.
very hard to read.
But I attribute that to the actor. I think she's
Which
doing a
is
very good
good.
job making her hard to read.
Oh yeah,
Agreed.
definitely.
Brilliant.
I'm so confused.
Yeah. Adilah is seemingly sleeping soundly after the excitement while Imogen sneaks off to see her boyfriend. What a pretty bench he picked. And their affection for each other seems genuine and mutual despite my previous doubts.
Yeah, I felt the same. Because in the last episode, I was questioning her side. I was like, he's obviously in love with her. Like, I have no question about that. Well, on her side, it felt a little bit less, it's more disconnected, I guess.
Right.
This time, this scene, I was like, oh, okay, I believe she loves him too.
He tells her all the intel they picked up, that he doesn't want to tell the Americans, and that they're using names contained in the Book of Surprises, which makes Imogen think Adilah is trying to give her the information, which is possible, since, like, we've questioned why would she tell her this stuff. Malik warns she's a target for them now. He's worried about her, and he's also worried about her because she's staying at Michael's, so he's aware of all that background as well, but she promises him they'll be okay. After she does this, she has to do this, and they kiss.
Did it remind you of
the snow scene?
June at the end, like with the way that Lizzie like put her face, like
it was very
the
forehead touches,
like,
the way she held his face. It was very reminiscent of that. It
Yeah.
reminded me of the snow kiss from season 3.
Oh yeah,
Right. And I said off before we started recording that Malik doesn't not remind me of Nick a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Malik is extremely pussy whipped.
Yes.
She likes having pussy whipped men.
Yeah.
I feel like Nick is a better spy though.
When she says it, it's like she wants me to figure it out. Maybe that is what Adilah's doing, because maybe she can't stop it herself because they'll use her daughter against her. And if she stops it, or if she doesn't follow through, they'll target her daughter. But if Imogen finds a way to stop it, then that may be the loophole that can stop the terrorist attack from happening and protect her and her daughter. So maybe she is deliberately giving her these clues, hoping she's smart enough to put them together and figure it out, rather than just coming right out and saying, this is the plan and this is how you can stop it. I don't know.
I still think they'd kill her and her daughter, but
they still might.
Maybe that is a loophole that she sees as even remotely plausible.
They don't have mercy.
Right. When she returns home, she checks on Adilah, who appears to still be asleep, but I would not buy that. And of course, she's not. She gets a text telling her to go to the stairwell at 6 a.m. In a different room, Imogen gets herself good and drunk, in case she wasn't already, and prints out her intel from the thumb drive on her father, who was, in fact, a double agent for Russia. Guilty of delivering highly classified documents to a Russian agent, probably not what she was hoping to discover, as she drops page after page to the floor, eventually giggling to herself and chugging more, and then looking absolutely distraught and quite drunk, she slips to sitting on the floor and drinking more. And then we get a June camera stare to end the episode. That's from Handmaid's Tale, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Very, very typical Handmaid's Tale.
Yep.
I just had a thought. Emir is supposedly like Bulgarian Russian, right? So
right, Bulgarian.
Is Bulgaria and Russia in the same area?
It's across the Black Sea.
You told me this yesterday. You told me this.
Yes, I did, but that's okay. I'll be patient with you.
Geography is not my strong point, especially European geography.
I mean, we have like 50 countries
in a small space.
In this small space.
I was just going to say that, there might be a thing how she knows Emir because her dad was a Russian, whatever. But I guess if that's not the same country, then probably not.
So this reveal at the end was supposed to be like a real big mic drop moment, I think. Did you guys get that feeling when you watched it?
It didn't shock me, but
no.
Yeah, I think like this is where the name of the episode comes from also, because it was like a classified.
Yeah.
Except that it's not. It's a fully classified document that was faxed to her, or not faxed to her. Sorry, it's given to her on the flash drive. But I think I agree with Kimberly that I don't really care as much about the side story with her father as I do about what's going on with Adilah and her backstory. Even Imogen's backstory with Michael, I think I'm a little bit more, and the baby, I'm a little bit more interested in that than the father. And this was sort of, it ended the episode like this moment that was supposed to just make us go, oh my God, but it didn't really have that effect on me.
I don't really think the show needed that part of it just because there is only 6 episodes, and like you just said, I want to know more about Adilah and her backstory.
The main
like,
stuff, yeah.
I would have liked it if they'd done, like, they're showing Imogen's backstory. Can we also see Adilah's backstory at the same time? Like, they seem to be, I don't know, wasting a bit of screen time.
I hope we get it. I hope
Maybe
we
it
get
loops in somehow, but we'll see.
I mean, I guess the only thing that kind of makes sense to me to focus on her dad is because, like, everything that happened to him was the reason she became a spy in the first place, right? Like, she wants to know what happened to him, why it happened to him. And now that she knows the why, I don't know, maybe she will have change in heart, or like she will drop the spy career, or I don't know, maybe this is a catalyst for something that changes something very importantly in her.
I think that the fact that it's Russia, though, and that she keeps saying, like, these attacks look Russian, I feel like it is all going to tie together in some fashion between the past and the present.
Wondered from the last episode, when she confesses at the cemetery to Adilah about herself and her father's backstory, she has the line about how there was nothing left of him to bury. And it just makes me wonder, is there any possibility that the explosion was a cover and that her father is actually still alive?
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
He could be a
That's
Russian
the problem with no body
KGB
to bury.
dude now.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched the Americans?
The Americans,
They'll just leave their families and go back to Russia.
I also just want to point out that, like, we were like, something could happen while she's drunk, and Adilah's supposed to meet someone at 6 a.m. in the stairwell. She's very drunk.
Or she's so drunk she's blacked out, she's dead to the world, and then Adilah sneaks out and then
or just kills her, or any of the above. It's just so stupid. Like, you can let yourself go about your father and your past after this mission is over.
Right.
Obviously, it's just for the show, but I'm surprised that she hasn't done this like 10 years ago or however long ago, like found out.
About her dad.
That she hasn't found out about her dad. That also occurred to me. Like, why would you avoid it this long? I guess maybe she hasn't worked with the Americans before and she's only doing it because she wants this information.
Yeah.
I mean, she really, whatever that Morocco thing was supposed to be leveraged to get him to do this for her. So, like, maybe she didn't have an opportunity to get that intel before. I don't know.
I'd like to know about Morocco. Will we ever know?
Me too.
Probably not.
Never know about Morocco.
But now I'm like,
It's also odd. I just realized that she stopped smoking abruptly. I don't think she's been smoking lately, right?
No
oh my God, you're right.
Episode.
Like the first episode, it was chain smoking constantly. And you're right. I haven't seen her smoking in the last.
Yeah.
I also looked up the credit song they played because I thought that, like, it was interesting to me. It's a song from 1966 by Jacques Dutronc, and it's called On nous cache tout, nous dit rien, which basically translates to they hide everything from us. We're not told
Very
anything.
spy. Fitting.
Yeah, and then it kind of moves on to, wait a second, I had the lyrics in front of me just now. Plus on apprend, plus on ne sait rien. The more we get to know, the more we don't know. And then on nous informe vraiment sur rien, they don't tell us.
Oh, interesting. Good you looked that up. Sounds so pretty.
It's beautiful.
I think that's a wrap on our discussion of episode 4. Come back next Tuesday for the penultimate episode. Thanks for listening. Bye.